Serious, Christians turned atheists, what made you lose your faith? Lack of evidence supporting the existence of any of the thousands of gods people have worshipped over humankind's existence. Tell me why you don't believe in other religions, and there you have my reasons why I do not to believe in your religion. The church did it for me. When I started to understand that it was a business, for profit and for power and for influence, when it started to become political, the final straw was when I started to see how much hypocrisy there is, by way of prejudice and hate. I think this what gets a lot of us. Like once you grow to see just how things actually are, then it's kind of suffocating to stay in an environment like that. Taking a mythology class in college and realizing all the different religions had similar origin stories of how Earth and man were created and evolved, but the details differed based on the environment the people lived in and how far along they were technologically. Anything science couldn't explain was the will of a higher power. Not saying higher powers couldn't exist, just realized people are killing each other because theirs is the right god, but the people don't realize that for all intents and purposes, they are all following the similar lesson stories. I also believe religion is separate from its organization structure. I think being spiritual and believing in a higher power is okay. It has helped mankind cope with the terrifying unknown. Anybody telling you that God wants you to donate money to them so that their leader can live in a super mansion or own an airplane is a freaking liar. Last I checked, none of that money ever gets trickled up to a deity. Oh my god, yes. Finally, someone who can put my exact view into words that actually make sense. Short answer, grew up Southern Baptist. When I started getting to the age where I could think critically about things, I just started noticing some inconsistencies. Specifically, I was told that people who believed in other religions would go to heck because they followed the wrong religion. What? When religion is based a lot on where you are born, I just could not truly believe that people would be sent to heck for being born in the wrong country. Ricky Gervais made a great point about church and religion, who BTW is an avid atheist, loosely quoted to saying, "Isn't funny how you are always born into the right religion." I was in a hard time for me and I started praying, attending Catholic activities and doing lots of other things like these. I wasn't feeling better. Years after I gave up doing these things and started taking care of me by myself, and now I'm happy. So the faith gradually went away. I'm not fully an atheist though. I may be an agnostic, but I'm not sure. I just started thinking, how did I happen to be born in the right religion and the believers of other religions feel the same way I do when praying? Also, I happened to read about cargo cults. Then I thought to myself, wouldn't some people on a desert want to feel special? Wouldn't they want to be the chosen people of God? Also, I realized that they are basically forcing you to believe something with no evidence or else you will suffer for the rest of eternity, and that was pretty much when I stopped believing. The funny thing is that I still attended Sunday school when I was slowly turning away from religion. After reading online about other people's experiences, I'm very glad everyone was okay with me changing my belief and we're still hanging out. Going to Catholic school did it for me. They were teaching us things that contradicted what they had taught the year before, and you couldn't really ask questions. If you did, the theology teacher would yell about that's what faith is for. Don't question the Bible. What really made me disgusted was that the teachers were adamant that suicide sends your soul straight to heck because you took the life of one of God's creatures. A schoolmate had a father who took his life, and the way they handled it was horrible and basically made mental health issues a nothing burger. 3 years after the above incident, my brother took his own life, and these butthole teachers had the audacity to show up to the visitation to pay their respects. I had to walk away so I wasn't rude. My mom and dad are really Christian. They are the PPL who would attend the Make America Straight conference. My dad are the worst of the family. He think he has somewhat of a childhood trauma that's made it worse. My dad thought it was okay to, for example, hit me, my siblings and my mom. I grew up in a family as the middle child of 5. 2 older sisters and 2 younger brothers. We did all of the things that Christian families do, like go to church like every day and praying, and had all sort of rules. I believed it hardcore. I was always kinda left out of the family, and that I think made me question a lot, and it gave me a lot of consequences. Well, life went on. When I were 11, my older sister married a massive a-hole when she got 18, and he was like 20 IDK. The dude he married was the pastor's son, so it was honor for my mom and dad. She always said to my mom and dad that he didn't treat her well. sexual abuse and stuff. But they did never believe her and said that that's a part of the marriage. She changed a lot, got more sad and didn't talk as much as she used to. I didn't meet her for like 2 years and she got kids and stuff. One day we got a phone call from her man. She was dead. She had had enough and took her own life. My family didn't like it at all. Suicide and mental illness was not okay and we didn't talk about her anymore. At this time of my life I found this YouTuber named Mr. Atheist and he opened my eyes a bit. The final straw was when I couldn't play in my handball team cause one of the players' mums were gay and they wanted me to stop playing. We had a fight and some months later I didn't have any faith left. My family didn't talk to me again. I was 14. Now I live with my mom's sister and sometimes they come to my matches but never talk to me. That's really sad. Hope you are doing better now. When a deacon told me that disability was an abomination of God and the disabled were a burden to us all and a mistake. Hitler is calling. He wants his political views back. I was raised Roman Catholic. Around 12 I started to read the Bible. That did it for me. I'm fully convinced that reading the Bible with an open mind is the most effective way to become an atheist. It's batshit crazy. You're not alone in that belief. Most atheists in predominantly Christian countries are firmly of the opinion that actually reading the Bible, and doing so with the intent of looking at what it actually says, is the leading cause of atheism. Many of them that used to be Christian will tell you that they lost their faith the same way you did. I started to read the Bible, then it was gradual. First I did not believe that the God in the Bible was good and created my own personal God. Then I realized that I was making up a God and started to question if everyone else was doing the same. That's when I started questioning, but felt guilty about it and had conversations with God like you cannot be angry that I am questioning. If you wanted me to believe you shouldn't have left all of this gaps and contradictions. Eventually I became an atheist. Was heavily indoctrinated with young earth creationism as a child. Stopped believing in the literal truth of the Bible in college when confronted with extensive evidence to the contrary. Was still very religious, with faith in the moral truth of the Bible. Got engaged to a conservative Christian in medical school. It ended badly. Realized after the fact that Christianity did nothing to prevent the emotional abuse I had suffered by the hands of my mother growing up and my ex as an adult. In fact, faith actively facilitated it in many ways. Hence, not a reliable source of moral truth. Too subject to personal interpretation. Put faith on hold. A year later, realized I was happy and not going to church. About another year later, just recently, discovered my beliefs align much more cleanly with secular humanism. This quote from Jefferson: "Question with boldness even the existence of a God, because if there be one he must approve of the homage of reason more than that of blindfolded fear." I do not feel obliged to believe that the same God who has endowed us with senses, reason, and intellect has intended us to forego their use. Galileo Galilei. I stopped believing because of Santa Claus. As a kid, I wanted magic to be real. I needed it to be, and everyone told me it was. Just have faith and believe in magic, and it will be real. That's apparently all it took. Finding out Santa wasn't real was a major bummer to my child self, and it literally made me question everything else I'd been told, especially because when it came to talk of God, as everyone told me the exact same thing: have faith, believe, just let him into your heart. Yeah, you guys fed me the same lines about Santa and look how that turned out. 8-year-old me just discovered skepticism. I ended up going to a Christian homeschool in my teens. I lived in Germany, and it was the only way for me to get an American education. I never stopped that discerning, questioning attitude. Eventually I just started to roll my eyes at a lot of the claims in the teachings, and the excuses of why things were the way they were just felt like people trying to fill in the blanks. For example, nobody could provide proof God existed, and they'd just point to the Bible as proof. Just look at it. It's all the proof you need. I'd counter the Bible was written by man, and they could say anything they wanted. Oh, but God guided them to write it. So, let me get this straight. God's all powerful, yet can't write his own book. Why does he need regular people to do it for him? Couldn't he just will it into existence like he did the 10 Commandments? And second, if God were all powerful, wouldn't the Bible be written in a language every human could understand and didn't need to be open to interpretation? Over the years my spirituality grew less and less, All because I asked basic questions and nobody could ever give me an answer that didn't ultimately end up coming back to Santa Claus. You just have to have faith. I can't stand the Santa Claus BS and had the exact same thought process along with anger at being lied to and me blindly defending Santa in grade school to the Santa deniers lol. I went to a highly religious Christian school. Every single day, we would pray and worship the higher power. I got so sick of it that I just gave up on Christianity and decided to start making my own choices. My mother was a very religious person, and when she found out, I got a beating. That made me lose my faith in Christianity even more. So I grew up a Lutheran Christian, which was fine. That isn't the weird part. I was invited to a Pentecostal, apostolic as they like to be called, church by my older sister when I was around 9 years old. Apostolics have a few core beliefs. The main one is centered around Acts 2:38, but a lot of those beliefs are focused around women and how they dress and behave. I wasn't allowed to cut my hair, wear jewelry, makeup, or pants. Listening to typical pop or secular music was banned as well. I lived like this for about 2 years when the pastor's wife decided to start a private school in the basement of this congregation. Me being the overachiever and naive 11-year-old I was, I thought it was a great idea. This was a one-room school with about 10 students. I have a twin sister, so I could always go back to her when I needed someone my own age. This is where the mental abuse started taking place. I was told every day that the only purpose I had was to please my husband. Major homophobia by these people. Remember, I was 11 at this time. My brother has mental illnesses, RADS, bipolar, anxiety disorder, and so on. And they would treat him terribly. One time the pastor's wife beat him with a baseball bat and threatened that I would go to heck if I ever spoke out. Sexual abuse was everywhere in this church. They had investigations done on them in the 80s and 90s, but because they're so spiritual and this was a church, the police didn't take it seriously. About a year and a half ago when I was 13, I had a major panic attack in the middle of worship service. To this day I DK what triggered it, but I turned really pale. I was crying. I could barely stand, and I couldn't hear or breathe. We left that exact day and I went back to public school a few months later. The first day of school was also the first time I had worn pants in 3 years. Now I'm going into high school in the top 10% of my class. I cannot even explain how difficult it was to relearn science after thinking the earth was 6,000 years old. But now I'm happy and doing very well surrounded by atheists and secular humanists. I'm glad to now identify as an atheist and it's made my life so much easier. Holy crap, I'm so sorry you had to live that. I'm sure those people will rot on heck instead of the heaven they want to go to. I spent my early childhood education years in a Christian school. That age is easy to manipulate. The economy tanked when I was entering 5th grade and I had to go to a public school because my parents couldn't afford to send me to a private school. I gradually started to doubt my faith as I was exposed to people from different cultures and religions. I was told by teachers to be wary of people at public schools because they are awful people who will poison my mind. As I got older, the lies fell apart. I became an atheist at 18 and unfortunately I lost a lot of people I thought were my friends. I used to be a Christian when I was little, till about the age of 12. I stopped believing in God due to a mixture of personal things, losing people etc. And it was around the time in school where we actually started to read the Bible. And the God in the Bible is no God I want to believe. He is not benevolent in any way. And any argument you use to say why you think God doesn't exist, a Christian will tell you, well, that's what faith is for. I've also never encountered any snakes giving me apples or burning bushes. I read too much of the Bible to believe it. I think there was a study that showed that atheists are generally more aware of the contents of the Bible than Christians. I could be wrong. I was raised Southern Baptist, well known for being one of the more aggressive branches of the Christian faith. I began to turn away from the church around age 13 as a result of moral disagreements. Everything from gay marriage to abortion to tattoos. These moral differences planted enough of a seed of doubt that I no longer felt threatened enough by the idea of heck to blindly accept church doctrine. I stopped going to church in late high school and have considered myself an atheist since. You have been visited by the donkey of good jokes. Comment: I'm not a clown but I make good jokes so they always laugh at your jokes. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.